Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the garage, welcome back to our UCC / drag truck build. I'm probably just going to call it the drag truck because that's what its primary focus is to drag race. Yes, I do want to do UCC, maybe we will sled pull a little bit or a lot more than that, but the main focus is drag racing. So anyway, in the last episode we had a little issue with our fleece mid plate. The problem was our fleece mid plate, which I have painted, would not allow our SF5 certified Logan built flex plate shield to work on our transmission. Now, I do want to run the truck in ODSS. So running this truck in ODSS, I need to have that shield because the certification or the rule from NHRA is that if you have a factory case, which all 48s and 47s have a factory case, nobody has an aftermarket one for it. If you do that and you're below like 10 seconds, below 6 something in the eighth, over I think 135 mile an hour, you need to have an SFI rated flex plate shield. They've kind of overlooked this for a long time for the simple fact that nobody built this. Now that Logan built has one out, it is going to be a requirement. Since we've decided to go to our mid plate, we had a little bit of an issue. Trying to use this with this was just not going to work. So I came up with a solution. So what I did was I actually added a plate up top. As you can see this weld here. So what I did was I took this, kind of fastened it down to the table, and I made a plate for it to match the contour, and then I welded it on either side to match, and then we put it in a milling machine and cut a groove out for our Logan built flex plate shield. Now, the reason that I added this plate was if we had our flex plate shield in place, which goes right here like that, I'd have to, cut around it, but that would leave this whole big chunk of metal and this whole big chunk of metal pretty much just freestanding, free floating, and I didn't like that. Would it have been good? Probably, but I'd rather lean on the side of overbuilt rather than underbuilt, so I added a plate so that way we had our slot in here and we are good to go. So I'll show you on the mock-up transmission how it's all gonna work right now. All right, so we'll have our engine here. We have our engine adapter plate, our fleece mid plate, and our 48RE. I have a bolt in either dowel hole. We'll get everything lined up, get everything tight. We take our Logan built flex plate shield, slide it in the slot here, and then we put our bolts in. And everything's good to go. So there is our whole setup, how it's going to be in the truck. Now I just kind of put this all together for you guys because I want everybody to kind of understand, because I had a lot of comments asking, why don't you just weld a piece of plate right here to be a flex plate shield and do it that way, or slot it and then weld the Logan built flex plate shield to the fleece mid plate. So SFI, the people who certify this thing, are very specific. You cannot modify this plate. So if you wanted to take one from another transmission, make it work for a 48RE, won't work. That's why in the past, nobody was doing that, because it was still illegal. So this plate itself is certified. So we just had to figure out a way to get it through our mid plate. So that's why we didn't go with adding stuff to the mid plate or whatever, because then we wouldn't have this sticker, which is very important. This is all to just try and be legal. I know maybe it doesn't make sense to you or whatever, but that is the reasoning behind doing what we're doing here. The reason we had the issue is because you'd have to get it certified. Now we can send this back to Logan built every 3 or 5 years, I can't remember. have him recertify it. Now, if we welded it to our fleece mid plate, he wouldn't be able to pass it and put a new sticker on it because we have modified the plate. So that is the reason we went to this step and we made it the way it is. I'm very happy with the result. I think it looks pretty good, not too bad, and everything bolts right up and all that. So I just wanted to kind of go into that because I had a lot of comments saying, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? All good ideas, but the reason is we can't legally. So I thought about even making spacers. That was an option that had been, put across the table, space it back, but now the flex plate shield's not doing its job. It's just kind of there for, so if they look under the truck kind of deal. But I wanted it to be right. I don't want to drive somewhere like Florida to Emerald Coast Dragway and then them say, well, yeah, that's not right. You can't run. Don't want to do that. I want to have it right. So that's what we did. Modified our flex plate shield, or not our flex plate shield, our mid plate in that fashion. I think it's going to be good. It's going to hold up very well. All of our torque and stuff is coming from like a rotational aspect. So I think this is going to strengthen things up and just kind of keep the strength where we want it with our mid plate. So I have been working on the truck other than this, trying to route fuel lines and all that. That was an issue with the mid plate. We'll go into that here in a minute. A little bit of a pain, but really not too bad. We actually lost a small touch of weight in the process. So let's get our mid plate in and all that, and then we will go from there. All right, so our fleece mid plate is installed. Everything went well. We did have to modify it a little more. So up here, when I rerouted our fuel lines and all, I didn't have the mid plate in. But I got everything tucked up high and the plate on the frame was good. So okay, not thinking about the fact that this is coming down at an angle. Well, I had the fleece mid plate and the plate on the frame at the same height, all that. Anyway, I did put these, pieces of hose on here for like little rub protection, but it was still pushing it up against the cab. Didn't like it, so modified our fleece mid plate a little more, so that way we have room. They're just kind of, slightly touching, but we do have that layer of protection, so we're good. Everything's bolted up and all that. Very happy with the result. This thing, it definitely looks good. So it's I do have a jack on the front of the engine. Had to mess with it a little bit, run some bolts in and out, and try and line things up a little better because I did move that a little earlier when I was looking at our track bar. But like this whole notch here, that's what this whole project's kind of been about, is problem solving. And we'll get into that in a little bit. That's kind of the main focus of the video, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I'm going to get that boost tube in. Actually, another problem that we resolved, I'm going to talk about that first, is in rerouting all this, which, yeah, I know it's a mess. I realized that I made a big mistake, or a mistake, when we first started this build. When the guys at Hardway asked me if I wanted the ECU mounted on the engine or in the cab, I went with on the engine because I figured it'd be easier. Now, we got this dual CP3 timing cover from D&J Precision. So both our CP3 pumps are gear driven. That sets them back further. So we had to modify them out for the ECM. Not a big deal. We had to turn the ECM, all this. It didn't just bolt up. So a little bit of work, not a big deal. We were able to do it here in the garage without the engine in. But now that we're messing with things, just having that not there would have made this look a lot better. We have power steering lines, we got fuel lines, steering shift. It's a total cluster looking down there. I mean, just look at it. It looks like a mess, but there's not really anything we can do about it. There's nothing we can remove at this point. So if you guys are thinking about doing a build of this caliber or to this, you know, level, definitely I would put the ECM in the cab. And honestly, next year maybe I'll get a new harness for Breakout and do that and just clean things up a little more. Then we'll just have like a couple bulkhead connectors, our wires coming through the, you know, the firewall and all that, and just get rid of this. But it just definitely clutters things up a lot more. So anyhow, the point I was trying to get to, when I was rerouting everything, what I did down here, if you guys can see that blue bolt right there, so that is actually our alternator cable. So what I did was I made this spacer. I took a spacer. What's the best way to show you? So, okay, maybe this is a little better angle. So if you, all right, focus. All right, so maybe this is a little better angle. So if you see this cable right here, that is our wire coming directly from the battery to the starter. So we have good amperage going to that. So our switch isn't getting melted down on that. So I took a spacer. It was female thread on one side, male thread on the other. And this is the spacer that I was talking about. So it was female threads over here. I drilled it out to the larger size of the starter, which I don't remember what it was offhand. Anyway, did that so I could thread this on there. So I could thread this on there, and then I threaded our alternator cable onto the actual threaded side of this. So, and I drilled it out and made it match, you know, tapped it to the bolt size of the starter. I put that spacer in, tightened it up against our starter wire, and then I moved our alternator cable to the front of it. So our alternator cable is going right to the starter cable and then directly to the battery, eliminating a whole body's worth of alternator cable. Basically, it comes from the alternator to here, and then this wire here will transfer the power rather than running this thicker cable all the way back to the battery. So eliminating a little weight, just something, you know, you guys can consider. So you guys saw our little adapter for our starter, and now magically our boost tube is back on. The cold side of the intercooler piping is on. So I know not a whole ton of a lot done tonight, but basically the point of the video was not to get a bunch of work done, and I'll wait till the garage doors open, I guess. So the point of the video is, the videos are a little sparser than normal. I usually try to get a few out a week and all that, but the current status of the drag truck, we're in problem solving mode. So this entire build is a giant problem we have solved. So we have had multiple things, putting fiberglass on, doing our roll cage was a major one, stuff like that. Now we got our track bar to solve, our mid plate with our Logan built SFI adapter, all that kind of stuff. This thing is, it's 100% custom. You know, it's just a lot of problems. I've never done a lot of this stuff before. And speaking of all those things, I've never done a single one of them. Made my own track bar. I've never, you know, changed something over the rack and pinion, hung fiberglass, never put a mid plate in. So we're learning as we go. Causes a lot of nights of problem solving. So you guys won't believe the amount of nights, well, maybe you will, if you watched all the videos, the amount of nights I sit in here and just stare at this thing and write things down, look stuff up on the internet, and just try and figure things out. Problem solving is what it's all about. So right now, you know, we got our mid plate problem solved. It's in, it's good. I'm happy with how everything's routed. That's done. But I have our factory, or not factory, our Carly track bar here, because I'm currently trying to figure out how to put a track bar on this truck with our rack and pinion, with our factory frame, all that. So like I said, problem solving. If you guys want to do something like this, or somewhere even halfway close to it, you got to get comfortable with the fact that you're not going to make progress every night. Some nights you are just going to sit here and think about stuff, and then the next night you may come out and look at that and go, what was I thinking last night? That doesn't make any sense. So it's just like our mid plate tonight. everything looked good. I was happy with it. You know, everything was routed correctly, but once we got the mid plate in there, I forgot about one little aspect of the routing of those lines. Now we had to modify it a little more. It wasn't, you know, a big deal. We just had to pivot a little bit. But that's what kind of this, you know, doing this stuff is you gotta learn to pivot, relax, look things over. Like I said, I'll come out here, I'll lay on a piece of cardboard under here, have the heater on, listening to music, just thinking about, you know, how can I put stuff and all that. Also, the other thing is, and this is something that's been hard for me to learn, but I have learned and I've been doing it, is try to reach out to people who you've met or who you know who have done stuff like this. And hey, maybe they can give you a little insight with their build or how they do it. You know, that's not going to be 100% hit. You know, not everybody's going to respond back to you or whatever, but that's how you kind of make connections. We met some people at Emerald Coast when we were down in Florida. You know, still hit them up to this day every once in a while. Hey, how'd you do this again? You know, and that kind of stuff. So that's the main thing, is patience, thinking about, you know, the build, and just learning that, hey, there's things you're going to get to that you're not going to remember how to do. So, yeah, that's kind of the main takeaway of the video, is just, you know, like the mid plate. We ran into an issue with our SFI cover. We ran into an issue tonight. We figured out a solution. We figured out another solution, and we rolled with it, and everything is good. Everything is legal. I'm happy with it, and I think it'll do exactly what it's supposed to do. Now, the reason I opened the garage is the other reason that videos might be a little sparser is, as you guys can see, we've gotten a little bit of weather. So we've had, it's only like 10 inches of snow here in Pennsylvania, but it makes doing stuff in the garage a little more of a hassle because the drag truck's in here and has to live in here. So if we have to push it in the center of the garage, not a problem, but at the end of the night, I would like it back against the wall so I can get my second gen gas truck in here, because that is the vehicle for the crappy weather. The new Super Duty has done fine. A little bit of driven it in the snow, but why take the 6-month-old truck out when I can take the 20-year-old truck out and just not worry about it? Plus, it's a stick shift, and that's certainly preferable in the snow, at least for me. But anyhow, so that's the reason the videos are just kind of here and there right now, is we've just, you know, we've gotten to a point, we're not just bolting parts on the truck anymore. You know, when we first put the truck together, we did valve springs, push rods, we did injectors. You know, you could do a whole night on this, whole night on that, you know, in a garage. That's a bunch of easy stuff. When it gets to this stage, you have a lot more thinking involved, and there's one thing to be thinking at lunch at work, and there's another thing to be laying under the truck and going, yeah, that's not going to work. So anyway, guys, that's my main takeaway for this video for you, is just, hey, if you are doing something, and it doesn't even matter if it's a drag truck, it could be you're swapping a Cummins into something, you could be doing an LS swap, it doesn't matter. You're going to run into hurdles that you're not going to expect. You're not going to know how to get over them, but if you persist and you reach out and you do those type of things, you'll figure out a way around it, and you'll be better off in the long run, because next time you come across something like that, it definitely gets easier to do. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to back to second gen here in the garage, so we have a warm vehicle to go to work to. We have a warm vehicle to go to work in the morning in. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Please like the video, subscribe down below. Catch you guys on the next one. Catch you. Yeah, I was definitely going to say catch you on the flip side. I guess I was watching Reservoir Dogs the other day. But yeah, catch you on the flip side. Yeah, I just realized it wasn't Reservoir Dogs. I was watching Boondock Saints. That's what Rocco says. One Reservoir Dogs, Boondock Saints.